Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Been a little while since I've done a crypto update, and just wanted to do kind of a little bit more of a macro scale, mainly focusing this video on Bitcoin, but I want to talk a little bit about Litecoin itself, and then of course I think part of the reason I would focus on Bitcoin is because Bitcoin has so much to do with the crypto market in general. But anyway, just trying to give a bigger picture uh, update from today, which is Saturday the 27th. So let's see here. Let's switch over to the other screen. So we've got our market cap at $560 billion. So if you've been watching it all, that isn't exactly high for us. We'll get into that here, but you can see as of right now, there's a lot of green today. And of course, we're comparing to USD. Let's just for fun go to BTC relative to BTC. Bitcoin, we do have a little bit of red, but it's really nothing dynamic. We seem to be kind of flat. And part of the reason I haven't done a lot of updates is because it really seems like we're in a, I don't necessarily say that we shouldn't be trading, but we are in a no trade zone of sorts, in my opinion, simply because the confidence we can have in trading now, buying or selling, to me has been very small. There hasn't been a lot of obvious trades, and I'm more of I'm a holder. I'm more of a big picture person, and I think we've been trying to fight to decide if we're going to go up or down. I do not think that fight is over yet, but I do think there's some things to consider, some unique things happening basically last night, changing the outlook just slightly, and I kind of want to talk about that here. But let's look closer here at our total market cap. Look at the last 7 days. Yeah, pretty flat. Obviously there's a little volatility here, but not a lot. Going back to the 1 month, it's interesting. We are kind of close to where we were a month ago, which is kind of hard to believe in some ways, but it's almost as if that huge run we had never happened, and we're back. There's some arguments going around that a lot of what was happening here was not necessarily. I think it was completely justified. There isn't such thing as you can't manipulate an open source decentralized market. Greed is, I think, is something that is supposed to fit in, and but there is some huge workup to the futures date, which happened around here. There's two separate futures contracts that opened in the actually let's go back a little bit here in December, and here in December, and then we had a crazy alt run because as Bitcoin went up, basically, we when Bitcoin dropped, it gave it just the as oftentimes the way it works is when more money goes into when Bitcoin starts taking off, people start dumping into Bitcoin. Alts can go down, and if Bitcoin starts to go down or stay the same, people start taking money from their Bitcoin essentially and start pumping it in alts. And so basically what had happened was the Bitcoin price started going up, and people were catching that trend, and the alts relative to Bitcoin and alts even relative to USD were kind of dipping in a sense, and then that early January time, alts just took off, and a lot of money was dumped into them. You can kind of see that here as well. If we go to, let's look at the 1 month, and let's look here at 3 months. Get that extra high of December. So you can just see, like, obviously you can see the amount of money in crypto as a whole was leaving Bitcoin after the 11th or so of December and starting to pump into alts, and even it's kind of in a certain way the trend has continued where relative to the money in, alts have really benefited recently. And this is percentage, so it doesn't really show. It's of the money that's in. Where has it gone? And so it doesn't really mean just because alts are going up, it doesn't mean their USD value is going up. It's just, of course, proportionate to the money in crypto. But so yeah, basically Bitcoin went up, alts were proportionately low, Bitcoin started to go down, alts took off, and now it's been Bitcoin and alts started dropping. Bitcoin's kind of like dropped and gone up and down, trying to find an even the right price point. Essentially, I think there's a lot of uncertainty, kind of like I'm saying, about what is actually going to happen. Are we going to have another huge dip, or are we going to take off? And I wanted to talk about that. So looking here at Bitcoin, trying to not go too crazy on, you get too much stuff going on and it's just not useful anymore on a chart. I think this is close to having too much going on, but I really think you can easily get too detailed on a chart, where if you start looking at small time frames, you can find so much conflicting information in the amount of certainty you should be able to place on a long-term trade from a short-term small time period on your chart it's not really a good way to do it. And the longer I'm in crypto and the longer I'm in trading, the more look at longer time frames. But I will just show you roughly what I have going on here and my thoughts about this, which are some good old triangle type things going on. The way you're really supposed to draw these in general is you can kind of call it a trend line of sorts if it hits 3 separate candles, and I take it with a grain of salt. I don't think anything is certain. And you can look at this particular, this is Bitfinex here, you can see this is the day. You can see, if I pulled up Coinbase, it would look a little bit different, and it's still Bitcoin. So I'm just looking at one exchange, and so there's definitely a little bit of leeway, and it's the same thing. You can't be 100% certain that in anything particularly. So I give myself a little bit of, it doesn't have to be perfect. And the thing is, even if you have a perfect trend line that perfectly touches, the chances that the next one's going to perfectly touch again and then bounce just like it's supposed to is unlikely. And it's just, but the general idea that around that price, something, that's a price to pay attention to, that is certain. That is very much one of the realities to consider when looking to the future. And so that's basically what I'm trying to do here. I'll talk about these crazy yellow circles in a second, but basically we've got some seemingly fairly obvious trends here, and the one that is the most interesting or worth looking at right now, I think, is right here. And if I go to, let's look at the 4-hour, and let's try to make this a little easier to read. So if we go to the 4-hour, if my trend line is a reality, it might be a little low, even if I moved it up so that it was touching these two tops here. It does seem like we broke out, and not only did we break out, we started our next 4-hour candle on outside of this, and so that is bullish, and a hint that we may actually be breaking out of our downtrend. It is very small. You can see that our volume here, this yellow line, is kind of more or less an average of the volume. It is sort of going down. It doesn't necessarily, I don't know how, I wouldn't put a ton of weight on that, but generally you would want volume going up, showing support. Volume going up, kind of gives validity to the price we're looking at. So it's just recognizing volume is kind of trending down right now, and so at least I don't know. We'll see. It's an uncertain breakout of sorts, I would say. Another thing to look at here, trying to be as bigger picture as I can, is our good old RSI. You don't really need to see that, but we've got RSI right here. So right now, so the way RSI works, roughly, just to talk about not exactly how it's calculated, but how you use it, is basically if this purple line here is below 30, that means that it's suggesting the price is oversold and that it's going to go up. And you can see that it broke down here, and so did the price. The price did change and bounce up with that oversold. And similarly, if we zoom back out here, I know this is really basic stuff, but I'm just gonna try to talk about it anyway. I think it's really, really useful. You can see we broke above 70, so if it's above 70, that means it's overbought, and you can see that it correlated with the top, and also similarly here, above 70, correlated with the top. Nothing is 100% certain, but these are things to consider. And another thing, if you go back, like I said, higher time frames are really valuable, and they're worth putting more weight on than a shorter time frame in general. If you look here, the RSI is like, we're kind of overall, we're going down, but we never broke 30. We never went oversold. And if we go back in time, in other prior bounces, we've at least hit that 30 oversold. Like, we've hit it right here, and we hit it right here, and we did not hit it here. Does that mean that we're going to have to go lower? I don't know. It doesn't mean that. It's just, that's what's happened in the past. And speaking of the past, this has been really interesting, because this whole downtrend isn't like, we've had kind of halfway repeatable patterns in a lot of our dips, and this one is unique in some ways, where like, we kind of tanked at first and then tried to work our way out and then tanked again. And if you just took this first part here, it's just hard to really find a lot comparable to that. One of the halfway recent dips that I can see that looks the most like this is this one right here, where we've got this is where my yellow circles come in handy. I'm just trying to emphasize that we dumped first, higher, third big dump, and then we finally worked our way up to higher highs. And so, realizing that third dump did hit the 30 on the RSI, and in a certain sense, I think it's not unlikely that we are somewhere right here, where they had a little bounce out, a little breakout right there. Could be our little breakout right here, and we could have this real dump of sorts coming, and it could like, we're working, if this triangle, if I'm reading this at all right, then the end of this triangle is likely going to be when it's either gonna dump or break out. So if we go down to the 4-hour again, and then make it so it actually looks like something. So roughly that would be somewhere around the 29th. So we've got roughly 2 days before it's going to be, we're going to have to kind of make up our mind. We can't get lower highs and higher lows forever, because we're going to have to cross, and it's going to have to either have clearly broken out or clearly broken down. And the interesting thing is, this is one of the first, we had a fake breakout of sorts, like right here. You could have, and then a certain way, depending on how your graph was, this would have also been another kind of fake out of sorts. So we've definitely had times where we've broken out of our our apparent trend and we didn't break up. We went back down again. And so that, of course, may happen. And the fact that our volume is sort of low, I just wouldn't place a lot of weight on that. And so I drew these orange lines on here. So these are where I think I'm just trying to look at this and see the most obvious, like what's the most obvious simple things I can see from this chart. And the orange lines are simply looking to the left of where we've been. Where has price halted? Where has it stopped on the way up and stopped on the way down? And that's really all I'm trying to do. And you know, the past resistance, you know, a lot of times it carries forward and it suggests that we're going to have a similar resistance there. And we've got a lot of potential resistance to going up. There's been a lot of time relative to how Bitcoin works of us going down here, and it's formed resistance for us to break through as we go back up. So that's basically, this is roughly what I've drawn here, what these orange lines are. So for example, we broke out of this, and we've got another resistance line potentially slightly above, more or less, where, you know, we've stopped in the past here, and then it also kind of matches if you keep going back. We've had similar support there, and we've got support over here. So that's like the 11,900-ish value, where, you know, if we break that, we might be able to head up a little bit higher. I think another obvious resistance level is around 14,000, and then another obvious one around 17,300, and then our all-time high. So we've got a lot to work through. And, you know, the way these things work, if we break through one, it can build momentum. You can get some certainty that, oh, we're actually on an uptrend now. And if we break through another one, it can pick up and things can catch on. I think it makes sense to me that there's a lot of people and a lot of money, probably more importantly, really wanting to jump in. And, you know, if we're going one way or the other, if we break below this, and if we break below this downtrend's all-time low here at 9,200, you know, it's like we're gonna have a real dump. People I think are in this no trade of a sorts and waiting for some certainty one way or the other. And I think there's going to be there's potential for a big reaction. And I think it's easier for us to go down than up right now, because there's a lot less resistance to us going down, just looking at the chart, the technical analysis side, than there is to us going up. But we've actually had, this is the first, in my opinion, this is the first bullish sign we've had in a while where we've broken out of a trend and we appear to be going up. So if that's the case, then these yellow circles, that would mean that could correlate to this right here, and we'd kind of like to see us, you know, getting the heck out of there. I do think it's definitely different than this, because, you know, we broke out, looked just like that, and then we went down so far, and it doesn't seem like when this happened, it seemed like there was a lot of general opinion of sorts shown by the way people were putting their money in, that price was too low. And you can see here, if we look at the volume as well, it'd be interesting to compare. So if we go into volume, so you can see as the price was going down here, volume was going up. The amount of Bitcoin being sold and bought was more and more and more, and then it worked its way up here, bounced, and then look at all that, like that volume showing that, you know, there was a lot of interest and demand as shown by the price going up. Ultimately, that was a good buy in a sense in people's minds right there. And it's really, a lot of times, you know, for me, it's so much easier to see something extreme happen, and the more extreme in a sense, the more like exponential and quick the high, the more exponential and quick the low, almost the more certainty you can have that it's either a time to sell or a time to buy. And like these, I love to see like they call it catching the knife, when you try to catch the very bottom of something, and you can, like they say, you can get cut doing that. It's that is not what we have here. We don't have that same seemingly strong interest, where the way we're bouncing around here. So yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it. We are starting to confirm some potential bullish behavior here, but the amount of certainty we can still put on this is still pretty low, and we still have a pretty easy road to a big dip coming up. Okay, that's the good old chart stuff going on there, and I just wanted to talk really quickly about news. Robinhood, which if you've never heard of Robinhood, it's a pretty cool app for your phone, essentially, where you can trade stocks for free. They are starting to offer cryptocurrency, and I believe it's not just Bitcoin. I think it's, there we go, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Dash. So that's pretty awesome. I think anytime we see the ability to get into Bitcoin be more accessible to the average person, the better, in a certain sense. But it's good and bad in two ways. One is, those are things that are going to, of course, help people get in, which we would think that more people are going to get in. But it's also a sign of the end, because once everyone has a good chance, once everyone knows about Bitcoin, has an easy ability to get in, there's not a lot after that. That's the point, potentially, where you start wondering, okay, I don't know that Bitcoin's going to be parabolic anymore, because that money has to come from somewhere. There has to be continuing interest. There has to be continual, money going in. And something I'm really trying to pay attention to, like I've said a million times already in this video here, is paying attention to the end. When is the big scale, but part of that is, okay, cool, I want to buy in. Bitcoin is an awesome blockchain in general. Crypto has so much potential. That's a new way of solving real problems. But when it comes to tokens, coins, or even theoretical, sorry, when it comes to tokens or coins, coins have a theoretical limitless top, except they really do have a limit, because there's only so much money that could go in. There's only such a big problem worthy of them solving. Even when it comes to coins valuation, tokens, you would ideally look at them similar to you would a stock, and where you look at the company and you look at the revenue. How much is this worth? I own a certain portion of that. Is my 1/1000th or probably, you get the idea. Is that one portion that I own proportionate to the reality of the more fundamental analysis of how much is this company really worth? And I think those are just really big picture things to look at that can help you know that your crypto investment is a good investment or not. And so I'm trying to pay attention to that. So I think this Robinhood app enabling the layperson of sorts to get in is a very bullish thing for now. But as more of these things go on, it's actually a sign potentially of the end. And this is all true, and I think these are things to consider. What else do we got? Okay, so Google Trends. It's really easy. If you ever want to do these, you just type in Google Trends, and it'll bring this up, and you can type in your search, and it'll show you, of the search volume over time for whatever you want. So of course I'm looking for Bitcoin here, and you can see here's the last 30 days. For whatever reason, we had a pretty big spike on January 17th, and then we've gone back down. It looks like we're slowly going down again. So the Google search is fairly factually not, we're on a downtrend still. So if I go back to the past 90 days, you can see some of these crazy spikes we've had. But I always like to look at that. It helps, give a rough idea of what's going on. Um, another potentially bullish positive thing for the layperson getting into crypto is the Bitcoin Cash app, or sorry, the Square Cash app, which is now enabling Bitcoin. I don't believe you can use Square Cash on your computer, but I believe it is much more of an app, and I don't know that you can buy Bitcoin from your computer. At least I couldn't easily figure that out when I looked at mine, but I can from my phone. And that's another cool thing. It's the same. It's almost the same thing as Robinhood, in a certain sense. The idea behind it, where people can easily get to Bitcoin. So that's another cool thing. That's if people want to get in, if we start having a bull run or some kind of incentive, it's going to be just an easier step for that money to start flowing back in. So we talked about this. Charlie Lee, I wanted to talk a little bit about Litecoin, because I think there's just another bigger picture fundamental part of Bitcoin's price going up. I think is related to coins like Litecoin, and I just want to show like Litecoin is relatively, the price is about half of what it has been right now, and there's a lot of bullish news, I think, concerning Litecoin, and I want to get the news out of sorts, but there's the Lightning Network, which is a reality. It's out there. It's working right now, where transactions can be done for very quickly and very inexpensively. And the whole problem where Bitcoin has, I feel like, been such a proven great storage of value, where it's relatively decentralized. It's got incredible coders, and the people behind Bitcoin pushing it to be better are so well thought out. I think the SegWit, which is partly what was needed to have something like the Lightning Network, are such good. They're like the things that you do now that you don't really see the benefit of until it's over time that it really shows how good of a deal it was, rather than Bitcoin Cash, where they just upped the block size, and they just, in my opinion, they just kicked the can down the road. Upping the size is encouraging centralization. It's making it hard for anyone to have a miner. It's just more expensive and harder to get in. And if we really want this to be capable of incredible number of transactions, that is not going to be the answer. We need much more creative ways of doing it. And you can see, if you watch the transaction cost of Bitcoin, the cost is to transactions gone down quite a bit, because exchanges and mediums for trading Bitcoin are slowly starting to integrate SegWit, and they're just a lot more efficient. You can do a lot more of the transaction outside of the blockchain, and just the needed stuff's going in. Lightning is even a more efficient way of doing that, and atomic swaps are going to be possible, and I think Litecoin itself is going to be a huge part of that potentially. And if you just read some of the stuff that's going on, like what Litecoin is trying to, it's really trying and pushing on working with people. I believe this is Charlie Lee talking to Monero about how can we work together. And then they've got this happened recently where ZebPay, he says, I'm excited to see Litecoin added to ZebPay exchange from the largest exchanges in India. This opens up Litecoin to trading to 1.3 billion more people. He wants to see others follow suit, and you just follow him on Twitter, and he's like, really excited to see so and so start implementing Bitcoin. How can we get Litecoin on there? And I think it's kind of surprising to me on one hand that the Litecoin price has not gone up a lot from this, because to me this is like showing the future for Litecoin. It seems really positive, and it's solving a huge need, a huge problem, I think, for Bitcoin. And I don't know how much longer we can go before we start going up in price. So like this to me seems very positive. Um, but anyway, those are some of the main things I wanted to say. I did want to look really quickly at the Litecoin chart here. So this is Litecoin USD to US dollar. And I do understand there's definite arguments to be had. Why are we looking at Litecoin to USD and not Litecoin to Bitcoin? I think it's not an easy answer to me. I think some of the altcoins are a lot more worth comparing to Bitcoin in price. I do not think Litecoin necessarily falls into that because part of its job is to be a medium of sorts to go from Bitcoin to another crypto or even to US dollars. And I think that's sort of the point of it. And it is worth knowing relative to Bitcoin because you're trying to invest your money in the best way you can. And if you could have put your money into this behemoth proven crypto like Bitcoin, then it is worth knowing, like, you don't want to just have diversification for no reason. You want to put your money in certain investments because you want them to grow. And so knowing how they're doing relative to each other is valuable. And of course, so yeah. Anyway, but we are in a lot of ways. I see Litecoin right now is very similar to Bitcoin, where it's had this clear downtrend, and where if we go much lower, you can see there wasn't a lot of resistance up to the price that we're at now. So if we go lower, like our potential to fall back down to something like $100 ish is likely. So we're at a turning point here, and I think Litecoin and Bitcoin prices have been very tied together in their history. If one goes up, the other tends to go up. If one goes down, the other tends to go down. And so I think if Bitcoin does break out, it's very likely Litecoin will. Another note, I do think it's likely that right now Bitcoin's going down. The money in crypto in general is kind of like, I guess, I don't know if Bitcoin's necessarily going down, but they're kind of consolidating at a relatively lower price. And I don't know that if we continue to consolidate, that people are going to want to start investing in things, and that trend of Bitcoin and doing one thing and everyone following may be broken, and things might start happening if this continues. But anyway, I think those are the main things I wanted to talk about today, and just a basic update. And my thoughts on what I'm thinking here. If we do break down, I really will be buying that dip, and I'm trying to have my money set up in a certain way that if it does tank, I'm not screwed, and if it does go up, I'm not screwed. I think having a big plan where you're considering the options, and you have a plan A and a plan B at least. What you can do is really hard to argue that that's not a good way to look at it and things to consider. So basically, I'm mainly a holder, have a small amount of money on the side. If Bitcoin goes down, I'm going to start using that side money to buy in and take advantage of that dip. If it starts going up and I start seeing confirmations that we're actually going up, then I might put a little more in just to try to catch that uptrend. And but really, it's a small portion, and I act slow, and I dollar cost average, which just simply means that over time, if it looks like it's going down, I don't put all my side money in to buy the dip. I spread it out over time. Crypto has a way of going higher than you'd ever think and going lower than you'd ever think. So it's really hard. And if you pay attention to people that have made their living off of trading, they're wrong a lot. And that's just a way to still be okay, is considering the basic options. Is it going to go up? Is it going to go down? And do you have a plan for each? And then whenever you're acting that plan, dollar cost averaging in and out can average out and spread out your risk, and you're probably going to be a lot better off. but I think there's still a lot of bullish things happening this year, and I think we're going to be fine. But anyway, that's my update from today and my thoughts. Thanks a lot for watching. If this was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you want to have more videos like this, subscribe. I'm trying to, by the way, put my videos in playlists of sorts, because I have different types of videos coming out, some on lifting, finance, business related stuff on my cars, and so I'm trying to keep them somewhat easy to tell which is which. And anyway, but this is hopefully somewhat of a perspective for crypto right now. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Thanks a lot. I will talk to you later.